Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Really a pleasure to be here once again. I extend my sincere appreciation to the organizers of this wonderful meeting, the Come Let Us Community Project, and also Madam Olga. I am very happy and honored to be here. My name is Dr. Falari. I will be taking you through this very interactive session. And today or tonight, we'll be talking about eye health. That is protecting the gift of sight through prevention and early health care. Early health care. So last week, we pretty much covered the initial parts of this session, but I will run through it again for those of us that were not around last week or those that are just joining us newly tonight. So this evening, we'll be going through the introduction to the topic. We'll be talking about the epidemiology, that is the statistics of this particular condition or this topic that we're talking about, the real world figures of it. And also, we will be talking about the basic anatomy of the eye and the other structures that support the eye. And then we move on to the risk factors for developing eye disease, talk about eye health extensively, touching on the protective, preventive, and rehabilitative measures. So to get into the meat of our discussion, which is the eye. We're talking about a very, very much important organ of the body because it is through the eye that we are able to see things, perceive things, and also the eye is basically the source of illumination for the entire body. Majorly, what we do and who we are is as a result of our ability to see. However, whenever we talk about health, generally, we do not include the eye that much. Or we talk about things like hypertension, talk about things like diabetes, but most of the times we don't touch on the eye as as important as we ought to. So now we'll take more time to understand the preventive and protective measures to practice and maintain for proper and optimal eye care. So moving on to the real world figures, globally, there are at least 2.2 billion people who live with some form of vision defect. So what this means is that we actually have a lot of numbers, or rather a lot of people that live with some form of defect. I myself, I make use of prescribed eyeglasses. And then it says up to 90% of all the sight loss is entirely preventable or treatable. This is somewhat of a sad fact because when people lose their vision, it is not something one prays for. And here we see that according to the World Health Organization, they say 90% of it is actually preventable or treatable. Moving on to the next sentence, it says that despite these highly cost-effective interventions, that means that the strategies or the healthcare means put in place to prevent sight loss, they are actually very much affordable and cheap. Unaddressed vision loss costs the global economy an estimated $411 billion annually in lost productivity. So basically, what this simply means is that vision loss affects our ability to achieve a substantial means of livelihood and ultimately affects the national and global productivity. Now we move on to the basic anatomy of the eye. I will not bore you so much with unnecessary anatomic detail or medical jargon, but this is just to paint a graphic image or a graphic idea of what more there is to the eye than just the white part of the eye that we see and the colored part of the eye that we see. So we can see from this image below, the human eye anatomy below, that the eye is more than just the white part. The eye extends more than just this part that we see. It goes deep. The eye is held in by a pocket in the skull by extraocular muscles. Just as we have muscles in other parts of our body, we also have the muscles that hold the eye in the orbit or in a pocket in the socket called the orbit. Now, the eye can be divided into three layers. So we have the outermost eye, which is the cornea, that forms about 1/6 of the eye, here to here. Then we have its extension, which is called the sclera, that forms the remaining 5/6 of the outer layer. Now, the middle layer, this we cannot see, is made up of the iris, which is usually the colored part of the eyes. You know, some people, we say they have blue eyes, some they say they have dark eyes or gray eyeballs. What is responsible for the difference in this is called the iris. Then we also have the ciliary body and the choroid. And the last part of the eye is the retina. So basically, the retina is one that is responsible for our vision because the retina is where the light shines, the sunlight or the light we perceive shines upon and the image is formed. Now, the eye is with lubrication. As we can see that we have lubrication in form of tears, and we also have, thank you very much. And we also see that our eyes are also glossy. And this is the job of two lubricants, which we call the aqueous humor and the vitreous humor. The aqueous humor is around the anterior segment of the eye here, and the vitreous humor occupies the posterior segment of the eye. Later on, we'll talk about the importance of these fluids that help lubricate the eye. Okay, so these are more graphic images that helps us understand how the eye looks and the different parts of the eye. Aside from the eye itself, we have the eyelid, the tear duct, and so forth and so on. So here I mentioned that the accessory structures include the eyelids and the eyelashes. The eyelids and the eyelashes, here we have the eyelids and the eyelashes, that we know. It helps protect our eyes from dust, injury, and excessive light. The conjunctiva is a thin membrane that helps to lubricate the front of the eye. The lacrimal apparatus produces tears, and the extraocular muscles help control the eye movement. Our ability to move our eyes sideways, upwards is as a result of the extraocular muscles. So now we are going to touch on the risk factors for eye disease. What are the things, the conditions, or factors that actually predispose one to having a clinical condition of the eye? Number one would be absence of a regular eye checkup or a poor access to eye care, especially when symptoms are alarming or when one is suffering from an eye defect that can predispose one to a more deteriorating state. Normally, we're supposed to have, at least have an eye checkup once in a year with the eye doctor or the ophthalmologist. And if one is using glasses, you'd have to see them periodically. But if one doesn't do that, you stand a risk of actually having a eye disease, especially if you have symptoms of an eye defect. Say maybe you have persistent eye pain, you usually experience straining whilst using your devices or while just going about your normal day. Not visiting a physician or an eye doctor would make the state worse and also expose you to the risk of having an eye disease. An eye disease can be anything ranging from the common eye defects that we know to the common eye defects that we know, such as short-sightedness, long-sightedness, to myriads of eye clinical condition. Now, common medical conditions that we know, diabetes and hypertension. Medical conditions like diabetes and hypertension can long-term affect the eyes. We have a condition called diabetic retinopathy, and we also have a condition called hypertensive retinopathy. This is when, for diabetic retinopathy, this is when there is non-enzymatic glycation of the optic nerve. And what this simply means in simple terms is that the excess amount of sugar goes into destroy some important structures in the eye that can lead to blindness. So the person comes in with some symptoms that further progresses to blindness. Now, my next point is that the elderly population are prone to suffering from eye disease because of age-related physiological changes, as well as cumulative exposure to environmental factors and increased prevalence of chronic systemic diseases. Now, of course, as we age, as we go older, the things we usually do with little efforts now takes us much effort to achieve. Now, this also translates to the eye. Because of aging and growing older, there would be some changes, some degenerative changes in the tissues of the eye. And also exposure to UV radiation, exposure to air pollution, dust, chemicals from work, even the people that use welding equipment as well. This altogether can further damage the eye, as well as the chronic systemic diseases, just like we talked about in the points above. Diabetes and hypertension also have an effect on the eye. Now, not only is the elderly population affected, the younger, the middle-aged population, they're also affected because now we live in a digitalized world. We make use of screens. As I'm speaking to you now, you're currently connected to your digital device. You use your television. That's also another platform that exposes the eye to some form of screen exposure. So this will lead to prolonged screen time and ultimately eye strain. In addition to this, occupational hazards for people that deal with working with chemicals, maybe they weld or they are exposed to some form of dust, sand particles, this would pose a risk to the general condition of the eye. Now, lastly, people that have a family history of eye disease, especially people who have had family relatives that came down with glaucoma, or people that have history of blindness, they also stand at risk of developing some form of eye defect. Now, all of this that I've said, I know that in one way or the other, we fall into some form of category of risk factor to eye disease. Now, how do we now protect our eyes? Now, when we talk about eye health, we mean general, overall, intentional, adequate, appropriate, standard care for the eye. Now, what makes up for a comprehensive eye care? One, it should be preventive. That is, it should prevent one from developing these diseases. Two, it should be protective. It should protect one's eyes from from developing some form of diseases or from deteriorating further. Three, it should be curative. It should be rehabilitative. Say a person has come down with this eye defect. How do we restore them back into the society? How do we still make use or make some form of, how do we still make use of the remnants of the vision that is left? Five rather, it must be available. Six, must be acceptable by the societal norms and also by professional health standards. Seven, it must be affordable and cost-effective. Eight, must be accessible by all. Nine, it must be universal, practiced here in Nigeria, practiced in the UK, practiced abroad, practiced everywhere. And 10, it must be accountable, and 11 must be achievable. Now we start with the protective eye measures. Now, this I want us to do practically. I want us to practice it. It is one, the reduction of digital eye strain. You would bear witness that after spending a lot of time looking at your phones, looking at the laptop, the iPad, tablets, or television, you might notice some form of pain or some form of, some form of pain, let me use that word rather, when you want to still stare at it. This is what we know as eye strain. Now, to prevent this, you have to practice the 20-20-20 rule. And this we are going to do together. So for every 20 minutes we spend looking at the screen, we are advised or encouraged to look at something 6 meters away or 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds. So in the next 20 minutes, I know we are still going to be on the screen. So once it is 8:42 my time, I don't know what it is over there, we're going to take 20 seconds to look at something that is 6 meters away. Now, another form of reducing digital eye strain is to put the phone or your digital device at arm's length from the eye and below the eye level. Also, there's a need to adjust brightness. Increased level of brightness from the devices will further worsen the eye strain. There is a limit of brightness that the eye itself can contain. There's a limit of exposure of light that the eye is supposed to take in, especially before bedtime, because if you are staring at your screen so much for a long time before sleep, you might even find it difficult to get sleep. Now, as simple as this next line is, it is very important. It says blink consciously and completely. Please, are we together, everyone? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
are.
are,
Yes,
Yes, we
Doctor.
are.
Yes. So can we say this together? Blink consciously and completely.
Blink
Blink consciously
consciously
and
and completely.
completely.
Yes, thank you very much, Satamas. So what blinking does is that it helps to spread the film of lubricants around our eye. It is very harmful and not helpful if the eye is dry, because if the eye is dry, it leads to eye burns, it leads to eye strain, and it's because of the fact that the eye is well lubricated. That is why it's able to perform. As simple as our tears are, they help a lot. I mean, God in his magnificent mercy and his beautiful creation made sure that human beings are able to cry, and not just to express our emotions, but also to help lubricate our eyes. So blinking consciously and completely is a very healthy practice to reduce digital eye strain. The last under this will be to take regular and intentional breaks during prolonged computer work. You might want to take breaks between your work, say 30 minutes into the work, you take like a break of 5 minutes away from your digital device. Now, the next point here is to encourage the use of protective aids such as anti-UV eyeglasses, wide-brimmed hats, and sunshades. Now, ultraviolet rays, we have ultraviolet A, B, and C, but most importantly, we'll be touching on UVA and UVB from the sun. And the need to wear anti-UV rays. Now, not all glasses that we wear, especially the blue light, okay, I'm going to talk more on that the last point, contain anti-UV abilities to protect the eyes. Now, when UV protective sunglasses will reduce the risk rather of developing cataract or pterygium. Basically, pterygium is a fibrovascular tissue that occurs that happens to the eye. So it spreads from the cornea of the eye to the remainder part of the sclerum. Now, wearing UV protective glasses while you are outdoors during the daylight, especially when the UV radiation is the strongest, protects the eye from 90 to 100% of UVA and B rays. Then also wearing protective eye gear for recreational or occupational activities are also preventive or are also protective eye health measures. We mentioned earlier on as a risk to developing eye disease that occupational eye hazards, say exposure to welding, dust, and debris, stand as rather pose a risk to developing eye disease. Now, wearing eye gear such as your safety goggles, I know welders usually wear dark glasses whenever they are doing their work to protect their eye, and also the use of protective eyewear when swimming, most importantly, or when cycling, because we know that chlorine is used to is used for the cleaning of the water, and excessive exposure to chlorine into the eye can be of potential damage. So wearing protective eyewear both during activities like swimming and cycling and while walking is a protective measure. Lastly, we have the blue light blocking glasses that help reduce glare and improve visual comfort. This, I know many of you would have heard of it. However, do not protect against eye diseases, which is a very, very important fact. So the anti-UV glasses even stand more chances of protecting than the blue light blocking glasses. However, these blue light blocking glasses, they are not of a total waste. They help to improve visual comfort. The number three would be an urge not to delay in presenting to the clinic whenever you experience any issue with the eye. Most importantly, if they do not resolve within 12 to 24 hours, whatever symptom it is that you feel in your eye that is bothersome, say persistent eye redness, or maybe someone accidentally had a physical contact of chemicals or some dangerous substances to the eye, the person should immediately present to the hospital. Number four is to avoid self-medication. Now, this is something that we most likely might do as a form of, survival instinct or self-protection, or just call somebody up on the phone and say, oh, I remember that one time you had this and this. What eye drop did you use? Please tell me so I can get my own outside. That is entirely wrong, because self-medication, especially when it comes to the eye, is something that, if not prescribed by the eye doctor, should not be used. Now, use of steroid eye drops as well should only be done when it is prescribed by the eye doctor, by the eye physician. Now, the last is maintaining regular eye screening at least once in a year, and all who use prescribed glasses or prescribed contact lens should have their glasses checked periodically. Now, moving on to the preventive care of the eye, one will start with dieting. So we have vision supporting diet, and this includes eating fruits and vegetables rich in vitamin A. Have carrots, potatoes, dark green vegetables, say spinach or broccoli. And the next is practicing hygienic measures such as regular hand washing with soap and water, avoiding eye rubbing, avoiding putting unsafe substances into the eye, example, urine, kerosene, or special oils. I would emphasize more on this because it is just, how will I put it, it's almost human to want to just eat your eye at every opportunity that you have. Or sometimes when you finish doing an activity, say cooking, we sometimes forget to even wash our hands before putting them in contact with the face. So this is an urge to emphasize on regular hand washing, avoiding eye rubbing, and not putting things into the eye. Whatever the circumstance might be, please do not put any substance into your eye. Now, this third point, by all means, you can see that it is in bold. Avoid violent acts that lead to trauma to the eye. Whatever the fight argument might be, please let us avoid anything that will lead to physical trauma or blunt force to the eye. Now, if we're prescribed glasses, let's make sure that we use them. Whenever we are given prescribed glasses, some people usually say that, oh, by 2-3 years, you should drop them. But no, glasses are corrective measures, which means that they are always in place to correct your eye defect. So long as your eye defects exist, your glasses are there to correct them. And they are always advised to wear them all the time. As well as in as much as they stand as a corrective measure, they are also protective measures as well. Now, early screening of the eye. I did mention earlier on that people with family history of certain eye conditions such as glaucoma stand a risk of developing such eye disease. So here I am encouraging you to go for early screening, particularly if you have a family history. You should screen every one of your family members. And after age 40, and you don't even have to be 40 years yet before you opt for a comprehensive eye examination. Lastly, present yourself to the hospital if there be any eye issue. or any problems with your eye. So I would briefly touch on the two leading causes of blindness, which are glaucoma and cataract. So I'm pretty sure you must have heard about glaucoma. It is popularly known as the silent thief of sight, and it is a group of eye condition characterized by optic nerve damage and vision loss. So most of the time it is caused by a raised intraocular pressure. What that means is that the same way we have pressure within the blood vessels, we also have pressure with a pressure within the eyeball itself. We have the normal pressure, and then we have when it is raised, and this is a cause of glaucoma. However, in as much as we say that glaucoma is caused by raised intraocular pressure, there are also sometimes when we have glaucoma with normal intraocular pressure. Now, what makes glaucoma distinct is that it doesn't present with any symptom in its early stages. It's similar to hypertension, which is often asymptomatic. And when it is symptomatic, it means that it must have gotten to a very brutal and a brutal stage. Same with glaucoma. Most of the time, when it starts early, the person is not even aware. Some might just complain that they've been having persistent headaches and they cannot see that well. And but in its early stage, most of the times it doesn't come with symptoms. However, gradually, patients that come down with glaucoma begin to lose vision at the peripheral sides of their eyes, and ultimately the blindness sets in. Now, a worthy note is that blindness that is caused by glaucoma is irreversible. It cannot be cured. However, if it is diagnosed early and it is managed well with medications or surgery or laser therapy, we stand the chance of preventing blindness caused by it. So here is a graphic image of what the normal drainage of the lubricant in the eye should look like and where it drains through. So when it is blocked, here in the second picture, I hope you can see my pen, the pressure within builds up, and as a result, the optic nerve is damaged because of pressure build-up. Do we all understand that? Here is a normal eye with light is passing through the normal lens here and is hitting the retina. But when there is some form of opacity, as we can appreciate from this diagram, becomes a clouded lens, and the light entering through the lens cannot focus on the retina. Instead, it refracts, hitting other spots of the eye, so the person cannot produce a clear image. So you see and appreciate from this image that the lens here rather, is a bit clouded. You see it's not as clear as the lens here. Let's move over to this picture. You can appreciate the healthy eye here, then we can appreciate the eye with cataract here. I hope we all understand from that short explanation. So we'll move on to the next slide. So we've talked about cataract already, and then we talk about the control of systemic diseases. If there's anything I've mentioned repetitively, is the effect of common systemic conditions like hypertension and diabetes, the complications on the eye. So here, I'm encouraging that we should make sure that our blood pressures are within the normal/usual range, and also frequently visit the doctor. And aside from the doctor who is managing you, primarily visit the eye doctor is very essential. We're not leaving the blood pressure. We're not just talking about blood pressure alone, but also make sure that your blood glucose is within normal range. I would encourage, if you're over the age of 40, you don't even have to be over the age of 40. You should know what your fasting and your random blood sugar values are like. Now, let's talk about the importance of early detection and care. I've been all about how we should always visit doctor, how we should properly present to the hospital if we have any issue with our eyes. And you might ask, I mean, why are we doing all of this? What is the importance? Why is it so necessary? And number one is that many blinding diseases do not present with symptoms in their early phases. This we mentioned when talking about glaucoma, the silent thief of sight. So sometimes the eye disease might be asymptomatic, which is not a good news because the person is walking, going about his or her daily life, thinking he's normal. Meanwhile, there is a cascade of events set in stone to happen. However, if one frequents with the annual or regular eye check, you can detect this as early as possible. And early screening or early detection allows for early intervention, and it allows to halt progression, or rather slow the progression down. And lastly, it also gives you the assurance that you are hale and healthy. Now we have the rehabilitative measures. This simply refers to training or services that are provided to help people with permanent or long-term visual impairment to maximize their remaining vision. Say the consequences have happened. So what is the next line of action? How better do we reintegrate these people into the society to make sure that they attain their best quality of life? Now, we can do this by using these following measures. However, rehabilitative measures extend more than the few points I have highlighted. Now, this would include the use of, let's start with number one, vision assessment by the ophthalmologist or the optometrist to determine the cause, the needs, and whether or not aid will be beneficial. Now, someone has come down with a particular eye defect or maybe has lost his or her sight, the next thing to do is to go to the ophthalmologist or the eye physician to know what has caused this. And in the process of determining the cause, you can also use that to prevent further damages from happening, or also use that to screen possible affected members, case in view glaucoma. Then also by visiting the eye physician, you can determine what this person will need and whether or not the help that will be provided will serve a long-term benefit. Now we have low vision aids such as prescription spectacles or even maybe the use of hand magnifiers. Excuse me. Next one, we have environmental modifications. For someone with an eye defect or someone who is blind, we know that the next thing to do is to make sure that their immediate environment becomes very suitable to their condition. We don't want a case whereby because of their condition, we still put things that can further worsen them or that can predispose them to having falls or experiencing some form of accident. So by modifying the environment to suit their condition, we are also helping them to reintegrate fully into the society while maintaining function. So this can be a form of decluttering workplace to reduce fall by giving them large print books and labels and organizing household items, taking sharp objects far away from them and making sure that things that can make them trip are not close to them. Then also they can make use of white cane. I'm pretty sure we've come across, we've seen people using white canes to walk or teaching them safe walking techniques or how to board public transport. Lastly, we talk about the educational rehabilitation for people with visual impairments, such as braille writing and audio materials. Now, these are graphic images that will just help buttress the point earlier on. This is someone who is making use of the walking cane. This is someone making use of an handheld magnifier, and this is a child making use of prescription spectacles to read from the screen. I'll soon be done. On our next slide, we have more pictures, I presume. Yeah, oh, Our next slide is conclusion. So this is 8:50. I believe that we have spent about 20 minutes looking at the screen. So we'll do a 20-second countdown looking at something that is 6 meters or 20 feet far away from us. So we'll do a 20-second countdown in our minds.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up 20 seconds, and that is how we practice the 20-20-20 rule. So in conclusion, most causes of blindness are preventable. Early detection and prevention helps to preserve our vision. We should incorporate eye care into our approach to general health care. Now, protecting vision is not just about treating diseases, it is about preserving our independence, opportunity, and our window to the world. Thank you very much for listening. I've come to the end of my session.
Thank you so much, Doctor. This has been an eye-opener. And yes, absolutely. You've mentioned things that I'm sure quite a lot of us have learned so much this evening, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are. Now, if there's any questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to raise your hands. If not, just drop it in the box. And here's one, somebody asking, somebody was asking you to go back to the teaching about glaucoma,
Yes,
because we lost signal there.
yes, thank you.
Okay. So is it possible, doctor, for you to go back and just do a little bit about glaucoma? Because that seems to be a big topic with some of um our listeners. Thank you. Yeah, glaucoma, right.
Okay, yes, can everyone see my screen?
We can. It's not in slide mode, but we can see it.
Okay. All right, so we talked about glaucoma, which happens to be one of the leading causes of blindness globally, and popularly known as the silent thief of sight. So basically what it means is that it's a group of eye conditions characterized by the optic nerve damage and vision loss. So it can be caused, many a times, it's caused by the raised intraocular pressure. And I explained that just as we have what we call the blood pressure, which is pressure flowing through the veins, we also flowing through the vessels rather, we also have the intraocular pressure. I mentioned earlier while stating that we have aqueous and vitreous humor that helps keep our eyes lubricated. So let me move to the next slide. So this aqueous humor particularly has an outflow, which is here. Is it red? Okay, it has an outflow, which is here. Usually drains as well, like it is constantly produced and drained through an outflow. If the drainage be blocked, just like it is here in this picture, that will lead to a pressure buildup that would damage the optic nerve, leading to glaucoma. However, bear in mind that sometimes glaucoma can still set in without an increase in intraocular pressure. Now, one thing that makes glaucoma distinct that we mentioned is that in its early stages, it is usually asymptomatic. What this simply means is that it doesn't present with symptom in its early stages. But for some people, gradually as the disease condition progresses, they do complain of headaches and vision at the sides of the eye. You know, when we see within a particular range. So the peripheral side is usually lost first. And ultimately, the worst consequence, which is blindness, sets in. And worthy of note is that blindness caused by glaucoma is irreversible and cannot be cured. But if someone is diagnosed of this very early and has an early intervention with medication or laser therapy or surgery, blindness from glaucoma can be prevented. I hope I'm able to answer your question.
Thank you so much, Doctor. The next question is from Olusola. Doctor, when someone blinks and the eyes feel gritty, what does that mean?
Come again.
Someone has asked about blinking when someone blinks and then the eyes feel a bit gritty. What does that mean?
So basically, it could mean a lot of things. Number one, it could mean that the eye is dry or the eye feels dry or doesn't have enough lubricant. Just as I was explaining glaucoma, I mentioned that we have some fluids in the eye, the aqueous and the vitreous humor, that helps lubricate the eye. And I also mentioned while speaking that blinking consciously and completely helps to spread the lubricant over the eye. So basically, a cause of the eye feeling gritty while blinking might be that the eye feels dry. And sometimes blinking cannot, blinking alone cannot help with that. So it might feel that it might be as a result of the eye feeling dry. And if one is the type that, how will I put it, is exposed to long screen time, or you are the type that you're exposed to, say, occupational hazards like sand or debris, or you're exposed to some form of air or dust pollution, you might be experiencing grittiness while blinking the eye. Another one is if there's a foreign body in there, of course, you would feel some sort of gritty sensation while blinking.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
However,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. Charles, you've got your hands up. You wanna?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doctor, for that wonderful lecture. More wisdom in Jesus' name. We often talk of hypertension and diabetes as being hereditary. Then, are eye defects also hereditary?
Yes.
If yes, considering the global financial effects you mentioned last week, it was so staggering. Then what are the avoidable factors to be taken into consideration to reduce this cost to the barest minimum and for even individuals to enjoy good health? Thank you.
All right. So I did mention that eye care is very, very affordable. Wait, sir, you're talking about eye care in concern, or are you talking about hypertension or diabetes in concern?
No, when talking about hypertension and diabetes, it's like we say it's the two, they are hereditary. It's
Yes,
like,
sir.
in a like family setup.
Yes,
Then
sir.
if eye defects, if they are hereditary too, then last week, you made mention of the financial global effect,
Yes, sir.
on the economy. Then
Yes, sir.
my question now is this: what are the steps we can take into consideration so that this one will be reduced? So that if eye defects are hereditary, is there any way we can control it so
Yes,
that individuals in the family, they will enjoy, because when your eyesight is good, definitely you enjoy good health. And
yes.
even considering that amount of money, which is so staggering, is much. Then if we are able to control it, then the amount will be reduced, to the barest minimum. So if there's any effect, if there's any step, that we can take. So that's my question. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for the question. So I did mention the global economic effects that eye disease weighs, and one thing worthy of note when it concerns eye care is that preventive eye care is very much affordable. and it is very much cost effective. So what are the basic steps that you can take that wouldn't cost you so much to make sure that you enjoy a comprehensive and adequate eye health? Number one would be an annual eye checkup. A visit to the eye doctor at least once in a year. And if you make use of glasses, that would be more than one time, of course. Is very much affordable. Here in Nigeria, in government hospitals, in a government hospital like I work in one, it doesn't really cost that much of money to see the eye doctor and have your eye examined. Another thing would be to avoid, or rather reduce. I use the word reduce because we are in a digital world and it's almost impossible to not make use of a digital device. So reducing the strain put on the eye, that would be prolonged use and prolonged screen time, not making use of sunglasses when you go out, or anti-UV glasses, not even wearing your prescribed eyeglasses can also, pose a risk to eye health. So obviously doing the opposite, which is wearing your prescribed glasses, wearing sunglasses or anti-UV glasses when stepping out, and reducing screen time also, as simple as that is the way to improve your eye health. And also, I'd mention diet as well. It is very, very important. Health is not only the medications, health is in the food that we take and in the lifestyle modification. Taking food rich in vitamin A, which is very important for the eye and for night vision, such as carrots, dark green vegetables, and fruit would also help in eyesight. Then what other thing can I mention? Protective measures, like I mentioned while speaking. If you are one that you know that you have elevated blood pressure in case hypertension and you've never had your eye checked before, this seminar should be an urge for you to go visit the eye physician, or if you be treated for diabetes as well, or case in point, you have a family history of eye defect. Let's say you and your spouse make use of glasses. Your children should definitely have their eye checked. Let's say someone in your family is suffering from some sort of blindness or has glaucoma or cataract. Your children should have their eye checked. Checking intraocular pressure or even visual acuity don't cost that much. I hope that with all of this, I've been able to answer your questions, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. We've got two more questions if there's no other persons wanted to ask a question, and then we'll be signing off soon. So, doctor, what is the best approach to dry eyes? And this was from Olusola.
Okay. So if you have dry eyes, what I would tell you to do is to go see the eye doctor. If you notice that you have burning sensation because of your eyes are dry, or you experience some form of grittiness, you need to see the doctor, because dry eyes could be a pointer to something else. It can be a pointer to an allergic reaction that you are having, or it could be a pointer to maybe some form of eye disease that the person is experiencing. So the best approach to dry eyes is to go and see the doctor. If you've been having it for a couple of times and it has not resolved on its own spontaneously, you should go to see the doctor. However, I advise to not make use of any prescribed eye drop or eye medication or drugs, except the eye doctor himself or herself prescribes it. I hope I've been able to answer your questions.
Brilliant. Another great answer. Well done, doctor. Chris O is asking, is it normal for tears to run down your eyes if you are not crying?
Oh, yes, it is very, very normal. So, I mean, I mentioned it earlier that the tears that we cry are also not only a means to express our emotions, but they are also a protective measure. So, you don't only cry when you are when you feel emotional, you also cry as um, you also cry as a protective measure as well. You know, when the eye is exposed to some sort of dirt or a debris or a foreign body, the next signal is to produce as much tears to wipe them off away. Or even if you are exposed to a mild irritant, the next thing your eyes do is produce tears so that the irritant can be removed by the tears. Sometimes when you are even cutting onions too, you also cry as well. So it is very much normal for tears to run down the eyes, even when you are not crying.
Brilliant. And then Miss Prosperity is asking the opposite question. What to do when I want to cry, but I do not get any tears?
And that's funny.
Yeah.
What when you want to cry but do not get any tears? I don't know what to say. uh you try to cry. I mean, if you don't want, if the tears are not coming, it means the tears are not coming. But sometimes the tears come too, right? Miss Prosperity. It's not all the time that you cry and you don't get any tears.
Any more questions?
Yes, I've got 3 questions sent to me.
Okay, Tony, we need to round up.
Yeah, the
Remember
first one
time.
is what is the effect of sleeping with exposure to light? That's one. The second one is I don't use glasses, my wife doesn't. At what age should we send our children for eye tests?
Okay.
And the third one is between eyeglasses and contact lenses, which one is recommended?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the questions. So for the first one that you mentioned, the effect of sleeping with the lights on. So there's something called the reticular activating system and circadian rhythm. Basically, these two things are like a clock-like process that our body system has imbibed, such that our body recognizes that it is daylight and it performs some kind of way, and our body recognizes that it is sleep time and also performs that kind of way. Now, there is a difference between the daylight performance and the nighttime performance. See that during the daytime, we're more active, we can do more things, but at the noon time, we're pretty much relaxed. And this is as a result of the biological clockwork that is within us. It's called the circadian rhythm. And the reason why this rhythm exists or has been established is as a result of the reticular activating system. Now, that one of the inputs that serves this reticular activating system is sunlight, sunlight or exposure to light. So when the body senses some form of sunlight, what I'm trying to say is that sunlight serves as an input, as a stimuli to the body that, oh, this is daytime. And you can see that when there is no sunlight, or perhaps there's you're in some form of dark room, the body tends, or it is nighttime, the body tends to be more relaxed. So to answer your question simply is that the RAS sees, let's say, sees light as a stimuli to still be more active. That's why some people might find it difficult to sleep with the lights on. However, health is individualized. Some people have become accustomed to still sleeping with the lights on. So it doesn't mean whether the light is on or off for them, they will still find their way to sleep. But when the body senses that it's in a dark room, the environment is calm, there's little to no stimulus, the body resets, or the body sets itself in a much more relaxed state. So it's easier to achieve sleep in such states. I hope I've been able to answer that first question.
Yes.
All right.
Tony, we're gonna have to wrap up. I think the remaining questions, we'll answer. Doctor will respond to them when we send everything out on the is it YouTube and Facebook. I noticed that Sandra said we need to cry more as a protective process. And yeah, so we are gonna have to close down now, Tony and Doctor. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much again, Doctor, for coming on again and joining us this week. We really appreciate you. And on behalf of the community Let Us project, would like to extend our sincere appreciation to you. Again, as I said, for joining us this evening and delivering such an informative and inspiring presentation on protective eye health. And we just want to thank you for sharing your knowledge, raising awareness about the importance of early detection, prevention, and regular eye care, and empowering our community with practical information that can help protect the precious gift of sight. You mentioned that. So we appreciate your passion for public health and your commitment to educating others, and have made a real impact with this community. So thank you so much, and I'm quite sure a lot of individuals here will join me saying thank you to you, and we appreciate you, and we'll definitely somehow be asking you to join us again next time. I'd just like to shout out to a few people. Patty, you said it's great information presentation. I know Debbie is here. I met her in New York for the past couple of days. And just Miss Prosperity and others, thank you so much for joining. And see you at our regular time, the last Thursday of every month, 8 o'clock UK time, when we join and do, present something for some awareness for the global majority community. So thank you all, and have a great night, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank